Okay, I'm starting a new series today called No Parking Zone. No Parking Zone. Part one, this part, the first part I'm calling Created to Move. We've been created to move physically and spiritually. And as I was thinking about this, I thought about my mother who passed away like 3 months ago this week. It will have been 3 months. And after her stroke, and she wasn't able to walk in the last several weeks of her life, I think every time I visited her, she would say, "Mercy, why can't I walk?" And it would frustrate her. And as I thought about that, because we are designed, we are created for forward progress. We are created for forward motion. She was not able to live within the design that God had created her for, and that created some frustration. And when I talk about, throughout this series, when I refer to the no parking zone, please, I want to be very, very clear. I'm not talking about never taking a break or stopping and resting. There are times when we need to do that. But I'm talking about choosing to live there. Choosing to live without purpose, without movement, without focus. That's a bad place to park. And we're going to talk about focus and what that looks like. In 2013, what is your focus? Is your focus allowing you to move forward? Or is your focus just keeping you parked? You're so focused on something that it's not helping you to move forward at all. The Apostle Paul wrote to the church at Philippi in Philippians 3:13 and 14. He writes, "No, dear brothers and sisters, I have not achieved it," referring to perfection. "I have not achieved it, but I focus on this one thing." It's interesting here. He says, "I focus on this one thing," but I see it as two different things. Two things here. Then he goes on to say, forgetting the past. That takes focus, and we're going to look at that. Forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead. I press on to reach the end of the race and receive the heavenly prize for which God, through Christ Jesus, is calling us. The Apostle Paul tells us what our focus should be. First, he says, we should be focused on forgetting the past. Wow. What does he mean by forgetting the past? Does he mean that somehow, some way, we get to the point in our life, no matter how dramatic, how painful my past was, at somehow, sometime in my life, I will wake up and I won't be able to remember it anymore. You may have heard the term forgive and forget. And so people think that this hurt and this pain that I'm feeling as a result of being violated or being mistreated or whatever, if I'm supposed to forgive and forget, I can't ever forget that, so I guess I can't forgive. And that's a lie. That's not what Paul is talking about. Paul is not saying that some morning you will wake up and forget your past. That is not how God deals with our past. God wants to redeem our past and use it for our future. There's not a disconnect here. There's not a life before and after. No, God takes our past. He takes my past. He takes your past. Whatever it consists of. He doesn't change it. He takes it and says, because of your past now, I can form you and mold you into the design that I have for you. So what Paul is saying is, don't allow your past to inhibit you from progressing or moving forward. Don't allow your past to intimidate you. Don't allow your past to dictate to you your future. In other words, don't live there. Don't live Looking back, oh, if this wouldn't have happened, if that wouldn't have happened, if I wouldn't have had a divorce, if I wouldn't have lost that business deal, if I wouldn't have lost all that money, if I wouldn't have met that person, if I wouldn't have given into that deal. We live there, and we get stuck there, and if we're not careful, we park there. Paul says, forget the past, but we have to be intentional about that. In other words, as you go into 2013, if you're living or you're parked in the past somewhere, we have to be intentional about moving forward. It's about using or redeeming the past to help you move forward. That's what God wants to do with all of our past or our history. God uses it. He literally, actually uses it. Whatever your past is, let Him use it to form the person that He wants to form, the design that He wants to create in your life. See, He doesn't separate my past. See, I am who I am. My background, my education, my family background, that will never change. God says, okay, I will take all of that, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I will take it all, and out of that I will create a beautiful, with your help and my help, a beautiful masterpiece. You understand? We have to understand that and be intentional about that. It's not trying to live my life, the rest of my life, just saying, oh, this past, it haunts me. I wish that wouldn't have happened. I wish that wouldn't have happened. That will never change. So give it to God. Trust Him with it. And then he goes on to say, and look forward to, press on to what God has for you, what God has for us. In other words, there's movement. Keep moving forward. Keep pressing on. It may, in that word, pressing is implied, it's like a marathon runner, just moving forward. It's not all easy. It's not all pleasant. But that's how we become what God has called us all to become. So Paul is saying, forget the past. Don't let it keep you from moving forward. And then keep pressing on. Keep moving forward. And, the beginning of a new year, we're, 3 weeks into our new year, 2013, and I thought it would be a good time to take a little personal inventory and ask ourselves, how are things going? This morning, just pause, be honest with yourself, and ask yourself, how are things going? Some questions we might want to consider are, is my focus in the right place? As I go into this new year, is my focus in the right place? Is my life going in the right direction? Am I even going in the right direction? You may be here this morning thinking, man, I've been going in the wrong direction for too long, and I've been wanting to change, whatever that is, but you just haven't done it. This year, do it. Go in a different direction. Am I happy with the path I'm on? I mean, just be honest. Is the path that I'm on, whether I'm a student, a stay-at-home mom, a career, I'm in a career, I'm pursuing a career, wherever you are you happy with the path that you're on? If not, say, 2013 is the year. And there's no magic bullets here. I'm talking about positioning ourselves. Say, okay, this year I'm going to be intentional about going down another path. Here's one you might want to ask. Am I stuck in old patterns that are getting me nowhere? Are there old patterns that are so embedded in me now that they're becoming destructive. So what patterns have you developed in your life? What is one thing that I could work on this year? Ask yourself that. What's one thing? You know, sometimes we look at the bigger picture and, I got to work on this. I got to get better at that. I got to stop doing this. I got to start doing, and we live a year and we make very little or if any improvements. Versus let's just tackle one. I know for me, I want to become a better leader. So I'm going to take some courses this year. I want to improve. What's one thing you can do this year? If you're a student or a grandma, what's one thing you can do? And ask yourself, am I moving forward right now? Am I moving forward? Am I pressing on? Or am I going backward? I was here and now I feel like I'm back here. Or have I just put it in park? See, the only time we should be going back or looking back is if it's helping us to move forward. We're not created to live in a backward motion, nor are we created to stay where we are. We are just not created to do that. We're not designed to do that. We are created for growth, physically and spiritually. I was telling someone up at the cafe between the services, I think I'm done growing this way, so now I'm trying this way. That's a challenge, isn't it? But we are created for growth and forward motion and movement, physically, spiritually, relationally. We're not created to stand still. We're not created to live in park. We are created for forward motion. Spiritually, we are designed to grow and not remain infants. Am I growing in my walk with God? Am I experiencing new things? Is my trust factor moving higher in Him? Am I trusting Him in new ways? You know what? I believe, the number one ingredient to a healthy relationship is trust. And it's the same in our relationship with God. Is my trust factor growing in God? Am I able to trust Him now for things that I could not trust Him a year or 2 or 3 or 5 ago? We are designed to grow. You may have used this term or heard it used. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. We are created for forward motion. In our spiritual walk and our physical walk, it's not intended for us to remain infants. And we see the Apostle Paul expresses this concern and frustration with the church at Corinth. I'd like to read out of 1 Corinthians 3, 1-3. Think about your spiritual growth. And we are all on a spiritual journey. Okay? Think about where you're at. Are you growing in that relationship? 1 Corinthians 3, 1-3. Paul writes to the church at Corinth, "Dear brothers and sisters, when I was with you, I couldn't talk to you as I would to spiritual people. I had to talk as though you belonged to this world or as though you were infants in the Christian life. I had to feed you with milk, not with solid food, because you weren't ready for anything stronger." And here's his frustration. And you still aren't ready. He's saying, I came to you, I wanted to give you some juicy steaks to chomp on, but I'm still just able to give you milk. You are still infants. You haven't grown. Is that where you're at this morning? You say, well, I'm not sure where I'm at. Let me continue to read. He gives us a pretty clear picture of an infant, a spiritual infant. Let's read. He said, you weren't ready for anything stronger, and you still aren't ready. Here's why. For you are still controlled by your sinful nature. You are jealous of one another and quarrel with each other. Doesn't that prove you are controlled by your sinful nature? Aren't you living like people of the world? Paul was frustrated with the church at Corinth because they were still infants. You know, to me, the glaring characteristic of an infant is selfishness. Now, it's okay when it's an infant. it needs something. It needs a diaper changed. Change it now. It doesn't say that, but it communicates that. I need to be fed. It's all about the infant, and that's okay. But when you have adults acting like infants, that's a problem. And we have people in the church who have been walking with Jesus for years, acting like infants. You know how you can tell you're acting like an infant? When it's all about you. When the temperature isn't just right. When the music is too loud. When it's got to be about you. See, that's an infant characteristic. So as we grow, we become more like adults, and we make our own decisions, and we have independent thinking, and we think of others. That's a great sign of growth. So where are you? Where am I? Is it all about me? Even, years ago, I used to think theologically. I thought, man, I got this down now. You go to Bible college and you get these truths down and you think, wow, I got it. And about the time I got something, someone would throw me a curve and say, oh, well, that doesn't, how does that fit with how I believe? So what I've come to understand is those theological truths that I thought were so important, they aren't as important as I thought they were. Because as I grow, I begin to see God different. I begin to see people differently. Everything looks different when I'm growing. So this morning, ask yourself, am I growing? Am I getting more and more concerned about others than I am myself? See, growing spiritually means I'm letting God control more and more areas in my life. The things that I used to be in control of, relationships, habits, not all at once, but gradually, He's getting more and more in control of those things, and I'm okay with that. That's growth. So this year, 2013, think about an area that, say, God, I just want to give this to you. I want to grow in this area. See, spiritual development and forward progress can only happen as I give Him more and more control of my life. You understand? I can't see you, but shake your head if you get it. Yeah, it gives me a little Haitian feeling here. Yeah. See, growth isn't this mystical, spooky, mysterious thing. Oh, I'm growing spiritually. No, it becomes very obvious. I become less self-centered, less selfish, less or more others-centered, others, concerned about others. So what area of my life in 2013 will I let Him take control of? For some of you, here we go. I'm just throwing some out. Don't take this personal unless you want to. Okay? How about your relationships? There are some here, I bet, this morning that know you've got to get out of that relationship. It is toxic, it is destructive, and you've got to break it off. Okay? Maybe that's an area for some of you. How about in your marriage? Been faltering, man, it's been back and forth. This year, commit to getting some help. Go see someone. Take it to another level. Put forth a little more effort. Talking about areas that you want to put Him in control of. How about your job or your career, your future, your health, your finances? You're saying, God, I want to put that area, I want to give that area to you. Letting Him in control means I am no longer in control of the situation or the outcome. In other words, I'm not trying to maneuver all the pieces to this puzzle to favor my outcome. See, we can't control outcomes. There are too many variables. There's too many unknowns out there to think that we can control all the outcomes, especially when there are other people involved. People keep throwing us for a curve, don't they? You're in a relationship you think is going well, and all of a sudden, bang, where did that come from? You know, you get yourself financially secure, and bang, where did that come from? I mean, we cannot control outcomes. Those are the kinds of things that we need to let Him control and understand. God, in 2013, I am tired. I am tired of trying to control this. I'm tired of trying to control the outcome. This relationship, man, is just bringing me down. The finances are killing me. God, I am trusting you with it. See, giving Him control means, God, I'm letting you, I'm putting you in charge of that area in my life. See, spiritual development and forward progress can only happen as I give Him control of my life. Letting Him in control means I'm trusting Him with it. And do you know what? Oh, there's that word trust. See, what happens, let's say finances. Boy, I've just been worried about finances. You're losing sleep about finances. You're on meds because of finances. You can't function because of your finances. And this has been going on for maybe a year or 2 or months or whatever. It's just bringing you down. If that's you, then going into 2013, it doesn't mean you go crawl in your bed and do nothing. Okay? It means I'm intentional about saying, God, I haven't been able to trust you with this. I am now going to trust you, and I'm going to rest. I'm going to walk in your peace. I'm going to walk in your grace, and I'm trusting you. See, now what happens is our trust level is going up, and that creates a healthier relationship with God. That's how we grow in our relationship with Him. The things that I couldn't trust Him with a year ago, I can now trust Him with. That's growth. That's what He wants to do in our life. So what do you need to trust Him with this year? When I leave it with Him, I choose to not worry about it. I choose to not allow it to stress me out. But I choose to walk in His peace, to walk in His joy, every moment of every day, in spite of the situation. I'm not there in every area, but I am in some. And there is nothing like walking in His peace in spite of a bad situation. That's what He wants to do for all of us. He really does. So spiritually, we need to be growing. Physically, we are also designed. Let me just back up. See, we are designed by God to grow spiritually. That's my first point of many. Okay, but we are designed to grow spiritually. I mean, it's our design. We are spirit beings. We are body, soul, and spirit. And our spirit needs to grow. It needs nourishment. It wants to move forward. It's not designed to stay as an infant. But we are also designed for growth and movement physically. See, our physical makeup, think about our physical makeup. This is kind of comical, but I think it'll help me with my point. We are designed physically for forward motion. See, our bodies, think about your feet. They are designed for us to move forward. Now, you don't see Olympic runners running backwards. We're not designed for that. Our feet are designed. See, my point, there is a design that God came up with and said, if you do this, you will function at your highest capacity. When we violate that, physically or spiritually, we are going to live less than what He expected from us. Does that make sense? How about your head? He doesn't have my hands and feet going this way and my head turned around looking back. He designed me for forward motion. My eyes, now many of you will say, you know your mother had eyes in the back of her head. But that usually doesn't happen. We have eyes in front of our head so that we can see where we're going. It's not that we can never look back, but it's not natural. It's natural to be looking forward and looking ahead and watching what's happening down the road. We're designed that way, not by chance or accident. It's a creation that God designed with a purpose. And I hope you don't miss the point. I keep repeating myself. The same thing applies spiritually. We are designed certain ways spiritually. And when we violate those, we don't function at our maximum capacity. May I just give you one of hundreds of examples? He said, love your enemies. Forgive people. When I violate that, it will literally destroy me. If I say, I'm not going to forgive. No way. You take that down the road too far, it will eat at you physically and destroy you. Why? We aren't designed to carry unforgiveness and bitterness and revenge and hatred and malice. We are not designed for that. Our bodies can't handle it. May I move on? You get that, huh? You got that. We are designed by God certain ways. How about your ears? They're not going this way. They're not, what just happened back there? What's going on? Now, you can hear what's back there, but do that with your hands. You can't hear what's ahead of you near as well as you can. This way. See, they're perched this way because they want to hear what's going on out there in front of me. It's just a thought, but I think it's a design that God put in place intentionally. We're created to walk and run and move forward, not backwards. Another thing, we are designed by God to function as human beings with 5 senses. This is all by design. We have our eyes, our ears, our touching, our tasting, our smelling. And when I lose one of those, I can live a frustrated life. I will live a frustrated life if I try to function outside of that design. In other words, I discovered I cannot stay underwater quite as long as fish. I'm not designed for that. And, I cannot stay in the air quite as long as a bird. I'm not designed for that. See, we are all uniquely and beautifully designed for a purpose. And if we could get this, we could live a happy and a content and a fulfilled life. The more I can live within that design, the happier I will be. The more I begin to practice spiritual principles, they're not intended to bring me down and to make me feel less than and to rob me of something. No, they're designed to help me live to the max, physically and spiritually. We all know what happens, physically when we begin to violate what God intended for us. And we may get heavier and heavier, which limits our mobility. God designed us for movement. He designed us with a purpose. And He's saying, man, and we're going to talk more about this. I cannot wait till next week. Oh, I wish I could get into it this week. You don't want to miss next week. We will live frustrated if I try to function outside of God's design. See, I function best when I live within it. Just a quick example of that. If you're here this morning and you have discovered that you are an introvert, someone in between the services said, yeah, boy, that really spoke to them because she realizes she is an extrovert, and right now she's sitting in an office, hardly sees people all day long, and she's like, man, this is driving me crazy. See, she understands. She's an extrovert. So if you're an introvert or an extrovert, stay within your design. Don't try to change it. That's frustration. That's inappropriate. God designed you as an introvert. So if you're an introvert, find a job, find an occupation, find a place where you can flow within your design. Don't go and get a sales job if you're an introvert. And if you're an extrovert, don't get a job that keeps you in a little box all day long, and because you need a people fix every now and then. You need to be around people. You know what I'm saying? In other words, recognize your design and go with it. God created us with a spirit that desires to grow. He wants us to have a growing relationship with Him. See, this is what we miss in church so often. We think this is a lie of the devil. We think this whole thing is about, if I could just stop this, if I could just start this, if I could just keep His commandments, if I could just do what He wants me to do. Forget that. Just start building a relationship with Him. That's all. He said there's two things you focus on. These are the greatest commandments in the Bible. And this is how, when you focus on these two, I believe you will live the most fulfilled, satisfied, complete life that God has for anyone. These two. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Keep that in the context of a relationship. Not a bunch of do's and don'ts. Say, that's going to be my priority for 2013. I'm going to be consumed with loving God more. And then he said the second commandment is just like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's all He wants from us. And when we focus on that for the next year and for the rest of our life, we are going to put ourselves on a path that will bring fulfillment, satisfaction, because we are functioning within the design that God has created in us. Wow. When those two needs go unmet, loving God and others, we will be unfulfilled and incomplete and always be searching for something else. Because God designed us for relationships. You remember what God told Adam after God created Adam? This is just an incredible thought. I've used it many times, so if you heard it, I'm sorry, but I think it bears repeating. Here God and Adam were in this perfect environment, but God had designed Adam for another relationship, a human, flesh of his flesh, someone he could relate to. So one day God came down and told Adam, said, Adam, it's not a good thing that you're all by yourself here. I mean, this is when God would come down and talk to Adam. You think, man, it doesn't get better than that. But that's what happens when we're not functioning within our design. We will be incomplete, unfulfilled, and always searching for something else. Find the design. And we begin by finding, of course, the designer, which is Jesus. And begin a relationship with Him. Let that be your focus. A relationship with Him. Not, I got to start doing this. Now I got to stop drinking. I got to stop cussing. I got to stop smoking. Forget it. You don't have to stop anything. Just start talking to Him as your friend. Saying, I need you. I love you. I want to be in touch with you, God. And He will put you on a journey of a lifetime. He really will. If we would just focus on 2013, focus on that relationship with Jesus. The designer. Begin to walk in the design that He has created for you. God is all about our forward progress and where we were going. He wants more than anything for us to be moving forward, not standing still, not being parked, not moving backwards, but moving forward. Thank you, Lord. We're going to pick up next week right here. I want you to think now this morning about do you feel like you're functioning within your design? Are you really? Or is there something really out of whack? Physically or spiritually? Identify just one thing. It might be physically. And by that I mean something in the natural. It could be a finance. It could be a relationship. It could be bad eating habits. Whatever. Say, God, I've identified that, and I know that's contrary to your design. Help me with it. If there's an addiction that you're struggling with, don't hide it. We all have issues, man. We all got our stuff. Just get help. Talk to someone. Say, man, I just think that's not part of God's design for me, and I'd like to break away from that. You don't have to go undercover. Just identify one thing that's not letting you flow within the design that God has for you. Are you angry? You just are an angry person, and you know that. And say, God, I don't want to live this way. I don't want to live being an angry person. Just help me. Or maybe get a friend. Call someone. Call a counselor. In other words, that's forward progress. That's what I'm talking about. That's moving forward. That's not keeping it in park and saying, man, I had to put up with this for 15 years, and I guess it's just how it is. I mean, you cross me, man, I'll let you know. My father was like that, and my grandfather. That's a bunch of garbage. If you're functioning outside of your design, say, God, help me. I don't want to live like that. Because I am so convinced, I am confident, the more we can line up with the design that God has created for us, the happier, the more fulfilled. Some of the crap that hits the fan won't even bother us anymore, because that's not our focus. It won't matter. It won't get us all bent out of shape. You hit a bump financially, and 5 years ago you'd have just lost it. What are we going to do? And now you're finding yourself, you know what, God, I'm trusting you. That's a great place to live. Oh, it is. Whatever the issue. See, that's flowing. That's moving forward within the design that God has for. And He didn't create one mold that fits all of us. We are all individually made with our own little design. So I can't tell you how to function within your design. You figure it out. I mean, we will help you. God will help you. But just understand this. We function best within our design. Physically, spiritually, emotionally. As I said earlier, we're not designed to handle and to live with an angry spirit, an angry attitude. It will bring you down, whether it was your fault or not. We are designed to forgive. Now that's who you think, there's no way I can't do that. Just give it some time, but it begins with a choice. Say, you know what, God, I believe that's the design that you have for me, and I'm not there, but I want to get there. Help me get rid of this thing. Oh, and addictions are just, oh man. See, what happens is an addiction becomes your master. That's all it is. It's not like it makes you less of a person. It doesn't mean God hates you because of that, or we don't hate you. It's just that I am no longer in control of that part of my life, and I want to gain control of that with God's help. See, the point is, God knows it. We just got to believe it, that we function best within the design that He has created for us. And that's the last time I'm going to say that today. Thank you, Lord. Let's stand as we close.